Hello. Let's start in the world. This is a heat map of IP addresses, internet, the interwebs, and where it's at, man. Quite interesting that you can see it's by far and away concentrated in Europe, the important world money center and financial, industrial OECD nations of Europe. And pretty heavy on the east coast of the United States. Midwest is obviously a bit dark because it's not densely populated, and all round quite interesting. White's obviously biggest concentration, red lesser concentration, and the bluey even less concentration. Quite interesting? I hope so. Right, let's get on. From a question in the comments yesterday was, well, in the past, what has everybody done to get out of these debt type things? There was the personal debt of the Great Depression, let's say, which was squeezed out by the end of the Second World War. But by the end of the Second World War, governments were greatly in debt. So what did they do? Link, paper, Carmen Reinhardt, and this is the abstract for the paper. Read it, but you basically don't have to, because I'll tell you what it says. Financial repression. This is where the expression financial repression came from, that's been so prevalent in the press over the last couple of years. So, what is financial repression? Explicit or implicit caps on interest rates. So keep interest rates really knuckled down. This is how the advanced nations got out of their debts after the Second World War. Knuckle down the interest rates. So okay. Low nominal interest rates help reduce debt servicing costs, while a high incidence of negative or real interest rates liquidates or erodes the real value of government debt. Thus, financial repression is most successful in liquidating debt when accompanied by a steady dose of inflation. Keep your interest rates really low, keep the inflation rate that bit higher, and you'll erode your debt by the difference every year. And after the Second World War, in the West, there was quite a lot of growth as well. So that's the way they did it. And obviously, if you look now at the negative interest rates, that's what they're trying to do now. But it's just not working for all the reasons that I go on about every day. Right, let's move on to consumer credit outstanding in the United States. Economic pick data chart. Non-revolving debt in blue, you can see, has turned over and is on its way down. Revolving, that's credit card type stuff, is turned over on its way down. And the thing that is skewing the overall numbers is non-revolving student debt, which is, as I keep saying every time, very sad. But there it is. But you can't blame the young people that aren't assured of a job, to say the least. I think it's a better idea to go and be educated for a while and then come out when the world is more dynamic and they can get a job with their new qualifications and their new debt. But unfortunately, there's a good chance they'll come out with their new debt and no guarantee of a new job. Right. In the United States, at the heart of quite a lot of the problems is the housing market, because the housing market has been important, let's say, to the US economy for many years. Excuse me. These are your FHFA house price index, purchase only, FHFA house price index, all transactions, S&P Schiller in the coloured string above. The prices have been up in the great boom, and they've come down to the one below, which is the CPI, rent on primary residence. So, and this is back to DCF values, discounted credit flow or something. In other words, to a greater extent, should I buy or should I rent, or should I buy to rent, is now equated, as in this should put a floor under the housing prices, because it's the calculation of should I rent, should I buy to rent, is all very difficult now. There's no obvious answers to it. So there's no real reason worked out that housing prices should fall anymore. But if that blue line, rents, goes down, then there is. In other words, as long as rents hold up, there could be a floor now being put under housing prices in the United States. If rents stay up, my bet is they won't. Rents will start going down in a deflationary period, and housing prices will follow. Sorry. FT. Very quick, it's just a headline. Fannie Mae asks for $7.8 billion as losses widen. That's it. We had Freddie, was it even yesterday? Whenever. So Big Sister wasn't far behind and wants $7.8 billion from the government. From you, the taxpayers of the United States. Right, I didn't think that I dealt enough with this Financial Times article. This was the one that started with that not very funny joke about burning the Congress critters. So I'll give you these two paragraphs to just give it some extra whack of what the article was actually about. Not a joke at all. Last week's Senate decision to kill a modest $60 billion bill to upgrade America's infrastructure before it came to debate may have exceeded even that august chamber's recent record. The package, which included $10 billion in seed money for a public infrastructure bank, was blocked by every Republican and 2 Democrats. They objected because it would have been funded by a 0.7% surtax on earnings over $1 million. And that was that. At a time when US businesses prefer to hoard rather than invest their cash, and when long-term interest rates are so low that the money is virtually free, the political system is unable to accomplish what ought to be a no-brainer. Until now, America has never faced an ideological divide on infrastructure. Both parties accepted the need to upgrade roads, dams, bridges, energy and water systems. But not now. Moving on. Total net government liabilities. Source OECD. Now, normally I don't like going with these way of putting things. Red is the official net government liabilities, official, and the blue big sticky up ones are total net government liabilities. I don't normally like going with liabilities because when does it start? When does it stop? I mean, are the it's very. Is it for 100 years the liabilities? 20 years? 5 years? Are things going to change or not? But you know what I mean. Pensions are in here, and social security and healthcare, and everything's in these projected net government liabilities, and you can see they're huge. And we know that the reds are huge from everything I've said. So the blues are mega huge. Over in the far right there, the US is, well, they're all very, very huge compared to their reds. France, third from the left, is the hugest. Now, these huge blue things, these unfunded government liabilities, are meant to be paid by future taxpayers. These future taxpayers need infrastructure in place and working like what we had when we were young, or they're not going to be able to pay these blue sticky up things. But it seems governments now don't want to invest in the future. They've given up on the future. They're going to use all the money to pay themselves now. Or something like that. Right, world faces subpar growth for the next 14 years, Wall Street Journal article. Pretty annoying to call it 14 years, isn't it, really? As if they really know that 14 years, it's not 10 or 15, it's 14 years. But still, obviously, a seriously negative sort of projection. The world economy will struggle to grow above its potential over the next 5 years as advanced economies recover, but the gain is offset by a slowdown in emerging markets, according to global forecasts released by the Conference Board. So it's pretty official stuff. Over time, the emergence of larger middle classes in the developing markets will help global businesses that must adjust to declining demand among struggling middle-class consumers in the advanced nations. So this is officially giving up on the advanced nations, and companies will obviously concentrate their selling on the emerging nations. But it does say somewhere in there that the emerging nations are going to struggle as well. So there. Bloomberg. Europe banks sell sovereign debt. Now I've thrown this in. I might have one a week or something till I get the answer. BNP Paribas and Commerzbank are unloading sovereign bonds at a loss, leading European lenders in a government debt flight that threatens to exacerbate the region's crisis. Certainly. BNP Paribas, France's largest bank, booked a loss of €812 million in the past 4 months from reducing its holdings of European sovereign debt, while Commerzbank took losses as it cut its Greek, Irish, Italian, Portuguese and Spanish bonds by 22%. And the banks are doing it right across Europe. But who is buying all this stuff? I still don't know. And you can read it. It's a good long article, that one. It doesn't seem... Well, if it knew, it certainly didn't tell me in the article. Right. Is this the end? Yeah. Germany's Weidemann says ECB can't bail out governments by printing money. The only chance that Europe has got, and it's being completely nixed by the Germans. European Central Bank Council member Jens Weidemann said the ECB cannot bail out governments by printing money. One of the severest forms of monetary policy being roped in for fiscal purposes is the monetary financing, in colloquial terms also known as the financing of public debt via the money printing press. Weidemann, who heads Germany's Bundesbank, said in a speech in Berlin today, the prohibition of monetary financing in the euro area is one of the most important achievements in central banking. And, specifically for Germany, it is also a key lesson from the experience of the hyperinflation after the World War I, he said. The ECB is under pressure to ramp up its bond purchases to cap soaring yields in Italy as governments fail to contain the 2-year-old sovereign debt crisis. Weidemann also rejected proposals to use Bundesbank currency and gold reserves to help finance purchases by a special fund, saying this is another form of monetary financing. Such a course undermines the intense incentives for sound public finances, creates appetite for ever more of that sweet poison, and harms the credibility of the central bank in its quest for price stability, Weidemann said.